switch that we have, a plug-in.
It doesn't work because
Oh, it doesn't?
he doesn't have it downloaded.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Curtis, would you introduce yourself and?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, thanks everyone for your time today. So I'm Curtis Rosol. I'm a business development engineer with Mars Air Systems. We manufacture air curtains. That's actually all we manufacture, so all of our R&D, all of our research, all of our testing is all around perfecting the air curtain. So we're kind of the leaders in the industry. Now, I guess before I start, would you guys mind just to, I guess, get me to understand a little better who I'm speaking to? So it's Rses is the society. What do you guys?
See the wall there?
Yep.
The placard on it? Refrigeration.
Yeah, Service Engineer Society. So you guys now, are you guys all on the service side, I'm assuming? Because that's the majority of the.
It's a crossover.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can focus, yeah, so that's good. Like I said, I can kind of focus into more of that where I can. But just like to get an idea of kind of who I'm talking to so it resonates a little bit better. I'm gonna skip over that. So this is just gonna be a quick outline of what I'm gonna cover. I'll kind of jump around a little bit. Again, just really just highlighting, I think, the important stuff. The PowerPoint's pretty long, so I like to just hone in on things that will really hopefully benefit you guys and improve your understanding of air curtains. This is what we call our hero image. Okay, so the story I like to say here is, pictures 1,000 words, but this I think really just encapsulates at a very top level what we're trying to do with air curtains. It's really keeping the bad stuff out and the good stuff in. Now, there's really two main ways or two main problems we're looking to solve with air curtains. So the first one's actually flying insect control. So those of you that have dealt with these for a long time, they actually started out as a fly fan. That's what some people still call them today. That's a very common application in the food service industry for like back doors, things like that. But the second one is thermal separation or temperature control. That's kind of crept more into the HVAC space, obviously, and there's what I like to call kind of sub-benefits under those two main categories, which I'll go into a little bit more into those specific benefits here. But those are kind of the two main things I want you guys to think about in terms of where we're using or how we're using air curtains. How it works, so I got just a couple of things here. This is CFD analysis. We've done a lot of testing and research, obviously, around air curtains. From the theoretical or computer-based side, this is a CFD analysis we did. Now, those of you who aren't aware, so air curtains can be an alternate to a vestibule, as long as they are AMCA rated, which we do have AMCA rated models. But the testing.
What does that mean, answer rated?
What is that?
What are you saying rated?
Oh, AMCA rated, AMCA. So that's just a third-party organization that basically tests our units. So there's obviously a lot of manufacturers out there. AMCA is just a third party that basically confirms, hey, the numbers that they put on their submittals are in fact rated to that. So AMCA is really important. Like I said, it's a designator in the market. It's what makes, we're more of the premier product. We're not selling you a cheap product that's just gonna, say, hey, they've got an air curtain. Our units we're actually selling for a performance standard. So, but going along that too. So like I said, this is showing CFD analysis we did. It was actually over a vestibule. So a lot of times, like I said, they can be replacements for vestibules. A lot of times they work in tandem with vestibules, so people will use vestibules or designers will use them just, they're comfortable with them. But a lot of times, so like you see here, right, the problem with vestibules is when both of the doors are open, you can still have problems with infiltration. So air curtains stop that, as you can see on the right side there, it's with the air curtain on. They stop that from the beginning, but also can be a solution if you end up having a problem with the vestibule, you can use it in tandem with a vestibule as well. Some more testing we did. So these are just this empirical data. So thermal imaging that you see on the left-hand side there, and then the right is some wind tunnel testing. The thermal imaging, I think, really gives a good depiction of what we're doing. So the timestamp between those, it's probably hard to see here. It's about 30-second time delta. And as you can see there, the temperature jumps almost 3 degrees. So this was taken on the outside of the cooler. This was actually a cooler application. The purple kind of being the cold air, right? The cold dense air coming out, I should say, from the bottom. So this just gives a really good image of 30 seconds after we're turning the air curtain on. The results are happening pretty quick. The ROI, the savings, etc. The problem with air curtains, really just moving air in general. A lot of times people have a hard time conceptualizing what we're doing. So I got a couple videos here. They're just quick videos. The first one is simulating. See if it'll play here. Can it play? Videos aren't playing. Well, that's all right. I'll talk you through it. It's a smoke chamber test. So it's basically just showing where we're blowing like a fog machine at the opening, and it's basically simulating thermal separation, so you can really get a good idea of what we're doing. It's unfortunate the video's not playing. And then we kind of had two other videos here. We used actually a big toy helicopter to simulate flying insect control. So we were having, this is at our factory. We had our air curtain on, and we were using this toy helicopter, flying it into the door opening, and you can see it actually does a really good job of knocking it down and keeping it out from getting tumbled into the room or through the doorway. It knocks it down and keeps it on the outside space. But I'll show you guys that later if I can get the videos going. This is a short list of benefits. So this is kind of going back to what I talked about earlier about, again, we got flying insect control, and then we got temperature control. And then I would call some of these sort of the sub-benefits of those. And really, I think that sub-benefit list is expanding the more that we as Mars, really as air curtains in general, are being more tested. We're kind of seeing more benefits, more applications beyond just those two main categories. So the big ones I like to touch on. The second one, obviously insect control, but reducing building heating and cooling costs. That's huge. So a big thing we're dealing with in California is electrification. I'm sure you guys might be starting to see that out here too, but all the equipment's moving. They're going away from gas equipment, and they're going to electric equipment. Now, where we're playing into that is air curtains require very minimal power. So one of our low pro units, it's about the same power output as a light bulb in a parking lot. So our play here is, as electricity, there's more demand on the grid, it's going to become more expensive. Running the air curtain is really going to maintain those building temperatures, and now we're just running a low power output air curtain, but we're preventing a potentially 150 ton compressor from cycling.
ECM motors?
We use PSC motors,
Okay.
but ECM, it's kind of moving that way, so I'm sure that's something that'll probably be more apparent in the coming months, years. But right now we use PSC motors. And now to add on that too, we actually see, I know that's obviously the ECM motors are supposed to be more energy efficient. We actually see very comparable energy efficiency with the PSC motors. Reason being with air curtains, because they turn on and off so much. The ECM motors, I guess, have like a little bit of a ramp up time, so you're not getting as much effectiveness. If the door opens and there's a ramp up time, especially high traffic, it's just not really syncing as well, and it's not being as efficient.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's a good question. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people are moving that way. So that's reducing building heat and cooling costs. The other one I'll talk about, obviously indoor air quality. These are all really important. Protecting perishable products and packaging. Now, if you guys are in cold storage or work in cold storage spaces, we're really seeing some benefits with air curtains, really around the humidity, condensation control side of things. And there's actually been a lot of projects we've had where packaging cardboard boxes that are in cold storage rooms are getting damaged by that condensation buildup, and they're actually losing product or having to repackage, repalletize product. So there's a humidity level of control that we're seeing with air curtains too, that again is kind of that sub-benefit of temperature control, but another story you can tell if you got people dealing with those issues. The last one I'll kind of touch on a little bit too, UVC and HEPA. If you guys are in clean air, hospital type projects, kind of ties in with cold storage too. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we actually do have that type of clean air technology, we call it, in our air curtains. Common industries that we're basically working in, it's a long list, so I won't go into all of them, but I think the takeaway here is I'm sure you guys are working in probably at least one, if not some, or maybe all of these to some extent. So as long as you guys are aware, hey, there's opportunities, and hopefully, like I said, the presentation today will kind of make you guys more aware of all of the potential applications of air curtains in these respective industries. Okay, so couple of application shots. First one's probably going to be the most common, customer entrances. So this is probably gonna be the majority of what you guys are gonna see. I would actually say the one on the left is probably the most common one you'll see. And this is our bread and butter, customer entrances. So on the left is our low pro series, and on the right is our standard series. Pretty similar applications, obviously customer entrance. That one's got 6 horsepower motors and that one's half horsepower, so you're getting a little bit more airflow out of the standard unit. But the low pro is very, very convenient for convenience stores. The ideal application for air curtains in general is pretty much what you see there. So right above the door on the inside of the building. Those actually come with a variable speed knob on the bottom, so you can either turn off the unit or vary the flow as needed, or the facility maintenance guy or whoever's really working with that can adjust it easily. And then on the right is a grocery store entrance. So again, pretty similar. Obviously that one's an outdoor application or outdoor installation. We can do that as well, as long as the unit's covered from the elements. So it just can't be, obviously you see that awning there, just can't be hit by the elements, and it can't be heated as well, I guess. So that's an unheated unit. Sometimes we actually get better flying insect control if the unit's on the outside. Sometimes they just don't have space on the inside. But it can be an option, if you can't do it on the inside. A couple more customer entrances. Now these are a little bit more niche. You might see these as well. So on the left is it's called our Phantom series, and that's obviously, as you can see there, it's recessed into the ceiling. So architects really like that kind of unit, right? Because they're getting the air curtain benefits, but they're not having to see the unit. So that's a good alternative there. Also, sometimes you just don't have space above the door. So that's a good way around that, to still get an air curtain in there if you can't fit it right above the door. And then on the right, that's our Quiet Pro series. So as the name says, the benefit with that one, there's actually two benefits there. So number one, it's a little bit different look. It's more of an architectural look. That one's an anodized aluminum. So if you've got like a silver trim, kind of like you see there, around some glass doors, something like that, it's a little bit better looking. And then it's about 25% quieter. So again, big complaint with air curtains is there's loud and noisy. This is a good alternative for those as well. If that's the main concern with the air curtain. Pass-through windows, another good opportunity for us. It's often overlooked. So if you guys are in there, I would even say if you're going in to service a unit they might have over the back door, a lot of times they won't have one over the drive-through window. So it's a good thing to bring up. And the reason why I say that is they might still have problems, meaning, they got the air curtain over the back door and they're claiming, hey, I still got flies in my kitchen, still having problems. A lot of times it's the other openings, and a lot of times it's specifically the drive-through window, because those open up directly to the kitchen, but it's just something they don't think about. So again, when that door's open, which it is pretty frequently throughout the day as they're serving people, you got car exhaust coming in, flies, dirt, debris, whatever's on the outside, and like I said, that's going directly in the kitchen. So they might have one over the back door, they might even have one over the front door. If they don't, I would almost argue that's another good thing to make them aware of. But drive-through windows, often a missed opportunity, and typically pretty impactful too. Kitchen receiving doors, I would say that's very common in the food service space. You guys probably have seen that application pretty frequently if you've done any work in kitchen project, things like that. The other two are pretty cool examples. So the one in the middle, the interior opening, that's a cold storage job, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. So their problem specifically, this was a beer distributor out in the Boston area. During those hot, humid summer months, so on the right there, those are the boxes of beers that they're palletized box up in, and they were getting pissed because the boxes, they were actually getting ruined by the condensation that was coming in through the door there, to where they were having to repackage the beer, they were having to repalletize the product, so they were losing money on the labor hours. And not only that, it was, the more they're having to constantly do that, they're obviously less time that the staff's really able to do other things. So we installed the air curtain, they were super happy with it. They claimed the problem was pretty much cut in half, so really successful, they were happy with it. And like I said, not only did we solve their main problem, but now they also get the benefit of temperature control, energy savings. So they get those benefits, but really the story there was we solved the problem that we were looking for. And it's not something you would typically think of that air curtains could solve, which is kind of why I like to talk about it. It's another way you could promote it to maybe you guys have a customer that's dealing with something similar and might not be aware this could be a solution for that as well. Mid-sized dock doors, very common too. those are, that was, I think, an Amazon distribution center. And there's usually, 30 of those, one roll-up door next to the other. So again, those are usually open quite a bit throughout the day. If temperature is a problem or really flying insect control or anything else from the outside, it's really apparent in those type of applications. Because like I said, it's not just one door, now we're talking 30, one right next to the other. So really important those are protected. And then kind of the same thing here. These pretty much highlight our industrial series. So on the left here is our WM series, they're they're direct drive units. On the right is our belt driven units. Those are the largest ones. So those ones we can go all the way up to 32 feet. So covers pretty much most door openings, and then those ones I believe go 16 feet wide. Biggest unit, but we've had projects where we just tandem mount a bunch together and we can cover openings that are a lot wider as well. Walk-in cooler, so I talked about this a little bit. Just want to kind of reiterate, this is, I think, especially now, a lot of cold storage projects, and it's for various reasons. And the big thing with cold storage, it's obviously condensation. With freezers, it's ice buildup, frost buildup, and we've actually installed them for safety reasons too. We had there's a Campbell Soup project. I can show you guys that. It's on the PowerPoint, but I have another image of it. But they had a problem where their forklifts were actually sliding on the ice buildup in front of the door for the cold storage room, and the forklifts were actually crashed into the wall. They lost product. The forklift got a little damaged, and then obviously it's a safety issue. They can't see through the strip curtains. If they have strip curtains, those become dirty. So air curtain, for that project, we actually did a vertical install. So the air curtain was vertical and it was blowing across, and that really helped clean up the issue. And like I said, temperature control, right? Obviously that's it's the intrinsic benefit, but we solved the issue. The safety issue really was the problem for them. So solving the issue that they needed help with. Freezers, the only thing, the note I like to make there is they can't be installed on the inside of the freezer. It pretty much just creates a snowstorm. So coolers you can kind of do either. We always recommend the warm side if you can, but freezers we have to be installed on the warm side. So just a note of that. Research and testing. So I'll kind of go through this a little. It's a lot of words here. I'll give you the top level of the research and testing. I already talked about a lot of it. So I won't beat the dead horse, but we actually, this was through AMCA. We outsourced a lot of research through, his name's Dr. Wang. He's a professor at Concordia University in Montreal. And he basically did kind of a series of tests. The first one was, basically it was a CFD analysis using a DOE reference model, but he basically modeled the building, put an air curtain over a vestibule, and calculated what the energy savings was. So that's what you see on the bottom there. 0.3 to 2.2% of total building energy usage was saved. And we basically took that information and he remodeled it using scale modeling. Kind of did the same analysis, and we used what's called a YAG laser. Again, I won't get too much into the details of all this, but really the important thing is this slide here. So the bottom was the CFD analysis. That was the results we got from slight positive pressure in the building, neutral pressure, and then negative pressure, and then the top was the experimental with the scale models. Obviously, as you see, pretty consistent results, so that was really verifying to us, hey, the theory matches the empirical data essentially. But the big takeaway that I want you guys to be aware of here is the pressure differences. So the biggest thing with air curtains, the biggest thing and the biggest problem, if you guys get a complaint question about an air curtain that it's not working, majority of the time it's the building's not balanced, and specifically it's the negative pressure. That's really the hardest thing. So if there's negative building pressure, then you're not going to get this profile. You're going to get that far right one, but it's going to be depending on how much negative pressure, maybe halfway down the door, maybe a quarter way down the door. So when they're complaining, hey, I'm getting no airflow at the bottom, what's going on? That's like the first thing I would always recommend having them checking, or if you guys are going in, having you guys check. And it's really, there's no solution, so I always like to preface with that because you want to make sure the building's balanced before we put them in to make sure we're able to actually get the functionality out of these. Unfortunately, can't fix, if it's a $100,000 balancing issue, can't fix it with a $1,000 air curtain. So I think that's the important thing to be aware of.
On that picture right there, what are we looking at on the top? Is that,
Yeah. So the top here, I'll go back to this. This might help a little bit. So this is what's called basically what we did is we blew like these. So this third bullet here, the helium-filled soap bubbles, we blew out of the discharge of the air curtain, and this YAG laser is what created that profile. So what you're seeing is the airflow out of the air curtain, essentially. And then obviously it's just the CFD analysis that on the bottom. So if you imagine, the top is the discharge of the unit, and then going to the bottom is the floor, the bottom of the door. That's basically just the graphical version of the same thing. Wind resistance, kind of the same thing. Let's see if I have a better, let's see. Yeah, kind of the same thing with wind resistance. I already kind of talked about it. It falls into the negative pressure camp. Really the takeaway here, the experimental matched the theory here as well, but the big thing is it kind of ties into the negative pressure. So we can overcome a little bit of wind resistance. That's kind of what the conclusion was on this third final test of the studies we did. But again, tying into that negative pressure, if there's a wind tunnel effect, you're gonna have kind of the same issues. So we can install air curtains. A lot of times it's really in like production type plants where they'll have a front door and a back door open, creating that wind tunnel effect. So if you install air curtains on those type of projects, again, make them aware, hey, if the door is open, you just got to make sure, the back door or whatever's closed, so we're creating that pressure chamber, so we're not getting the negative pressure through the building.
Quick question, could you,
Yes.
in that, we got 2 doors and everything,
Yeah.
inside the building, could I air contain each one and kind of make it,
Yeah, you could, but you're saying if both are open?
yeah,
No, unfortunately, it would still create the negative, yeah.
Too
the
much
negative
pressure, okay.
Yeah, and it's very, like I said, it's very slight what they could overcome. So it would be nice though to be able to do that, but unfortunately, unable to do that.
okay.
Just a couple more research and testing. This one kind of just reiterates what I've already talked about. So this was actually a wildfire simulation. So kind of looking at the graphs here, right? What we did is the 2 on the left, door open 25% of the time and door open 50% of the time. That was kind of just the gauge we used. Now the red lines are the particulates on the outside of the door, and the blue lines are what's getting infiltrated through the door with the air curtain on. So obviously the ones on the right, I don't want to block your camera. So the ones on the right are a little less steep. One on the left's a little bit more steep. So that's basically just saying less particulates were getting infiltrated. The monitor we were using was tracking less particulates getting into the building with the air curtains on. And then these big spikes in the red there on the left, that's just showing the varying amounts of particulate smoke wildfire on the outside. Meaning when the doors open, that's kind of where you see the dips, because all of that's getting into the building essentially. So promising results there. Now the last one, experiment testing wise, that I think is really cool. This is kind of something new. We've been doing more of. This is our UV unit. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. We did this experiment. This was in a walk-in cooler. We did it locally to us. Now, I guess to preface, so we've had UVC in our units for a while. We've had it for years. Didn't really gain traction until COVID. And then COVID, obviously a lot of people were interested in UV, wanted to see what that was all about. So we got some traction there and we figured, well, if people are getting interested in this, how else can we use these to help solve other problems, right? So the idea here was we put in a, like I said, cold storage room, 2 sets of Petri dishes. So this first set on the bottom, we put these Petri dishes in for a week with our air curtain off, UV feature off, and that was the mold growth that basically accumulated. So especially, under the condenser in the back, right? Pretty crazy amount of mold growth, which was interesting because that's where all of our food's being stored, at least for that restaurant. But that's food reading. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. So took those out, put in a fresh set of Petri dishes. Now we turned our air curtain on with the UV function. So the UV function, that comes with a controller and an integral timer. And basically all that does is, it varies, right? You can kind of set it. But the example I think we did here was every 3 hours, let's say, regardless if the door is open or closed, that UV feature will turn on, the air curtain will turn on, and it'll run for 45 minutes or however often you want to program it for. But that was roughly what we did here. And that was the results. The top 3 were in the same locations for 2 weeks. So we doubled the amount of time and we almost mitigated all the growth that was happening in the Petri dishes. So this was cool. This really kind of opened up. I think I got another image here. We've done a few experiments since then because we figured no one's going to be selling Petri dishes, so I don't think that's going to be as sticky as something like strawberries. So we repeated the experiment with strawberries local, in our factory, it's local to us. Got very similar results. Again, we had a same thing. We did strawberries with the UV off, strawberries with the UV on. We were able to prevent a lot of the mold growth, and this is an ongoing experiment we're doing. We're playing with colder temperatures, different temperature levels. We're playing with humidity levels to really dial in as many and as more real life applications that we can. So what's the takeaway here? What's the play? Well, we're thinking if we can extend the shelf life, right, of your produce, of whatever you're storing in these cold storage rooms, these coolers, now you get another level of energy savings, aside from just the temperature control, right? If you're able to get more out of the product you're buying, now you maybe have to purchase in less cycles, or maybe you just have to purchase less in general if you're able to, maintain or keep more of what you're buying. So really cool application there. We're actually starting to see a lot more applications with this, like I said, in cold storage specifically for that reason. Couple options. So typical options we have is not all of these are kind of highlighting the main ones. We do have heat options, so I'm sure you guys would probably want that out here. Electric's probably most common, but we do steam, hot water. Our larger industrial units, we could do indirect gas fired heat as well. Sanitating, you guys probably don't deal with NSF, that's more of a food service thing. But we do have 304 stainless as an option. We can do 316 too, if that's something that you or your customer would need. Specialty applications, we do wash down, explosion proof as well. I know those are more for industrial type applications, processing plants, that kind of thing. And then tamper proof, so if you had like a prison project or something where you just want specific, specific people, I guess, to really play with or change the settings, we can do that as well. Clean air, yeah, I'll skip over this one a little bit. I already talked about UV, but that just gives you an exploded view of what that looks like. So it's really just one of the units with some UV lights. That's what we call our kill method of clean air, meaning we're bringing in the air's coming in through the intake stream. How UV works, obviously it kills surfaces, it doesn't kill it out of the air, so those particulates, pathogens are getting deposited into the housing, and then we're, UV lights hitting it and killing them there, and then discharging clean air.
You've been experimenting at all with the ionizers?
Yes, you beat me to the punch. I'll get there in the next slide. This is so some people like the tried and true HEPA filters. That's another option we can do. The HEPA filters, I guess that was another thing to note. We can only do our standard unit for these just because we can't do the low pro, which is our least, it's our smallest unit, just because you got to overcome the static a little bit, and that one has a little bit trickier time to do that. But this is the third one, and this is actually, believe it or not, probably the most common one we've sold in the clean air is what we call our VHP. So it's got the triple clean air technology. So that's the UV lamp, the HEPA filter, and then in the back there, that's our bipolar ionizer. So really common in hospital projects, cold storage projects, like I said too, clean rooms, labs, doctor's offices. We've sold some of these for doctor's offices. But this really gives the trifecta. This offers the most sanitation that we can provide. So yeah, if you have, and it really obviously again comes all down to what your customer wants. But like I said, this is the one that kind of provides the maximum benefit for that.
What's the lifetime of the UV lamps on your product?
Yeah, typically, so again, depends on how often they use it. I would say about a year before you guys swap them out. That seems to be pretty standard. There's a couple that we're looking into that might be longer, but that's currently where we'd recommend to swap them out.
The generator?
What is that?
Have you seen any faults with the generators?
Haven't yet.
Unlimited lifetime?
The what?
Is it unlimited lifetime on that, or?
That I'm not sure. I don't want to say yes and that's false. So I can look into that though for you if you're more interested in that. I think this is the last section. Okay, cool. So recommended accessories. There's really, I would say, unless you're just swapping out, replacing a unit, you really just have to worry about 3 accessories 95% of the cases. Pretty straightforward. Anything beyond that, you know, obviously, the WH Gardner Mark can help you guys out selecting if you need like control, you know, special control options, things like that. But for the most part, switches, controllers, and brackets. So first one is door switches. Pretty simple, right? All we're doing is turning the unit on and off as the door opens and closes. There's 2 flavors that we offer for that. So the one on the left is our mechanical switch. I would recommend if you guys can get them using these whenever you can, that's the way to go, just because they're most cost effective and you don't need a controller. So as long as you see here, as long as the unit's 250 volt single phase or less, you can tie this directly into the motor line. So you don't need any supplemental circuit or anything like that. Really good switch there if you can use it. If they want a mechanic or a magnetic switch, or they got like a sliding door or a roll-up door, something that doesn't really work with a plunger like a hinge door would, then you'd be in our magnetic switches. So we've got the commercial switches, like you see there. Those are small plastic ones. They're the most discreet, but they probably hold up the least. The industrial ones are the ones that will hold up better. I recommend using these if you can, just because the tolerances are a little bit greater. And if they get banged or anything like that, they hold up a little bit better without falling off or breaking. But like I said, surface mounted or floor mounted if you have like a roll-up door with like forklifts driving around, stuff like that. But like I said, these do need a controller of some kind to operate. These ones work on a 115 volt circuit. We obviously, like I said, have controllers available. Again, I would always recommend, if you can, going with the rib kit or what we call our J kits, and that pretty much packages a rib controller with one of our switches. So it's just a package. All you gotta do is, you know, obviously you gotta mount this on the wall. It's external, but it's the most budget-friendly way to get the magnetic switches working with the unit. Now, if you had a larger unit, 3-phase, it would need a motor to start or something like that. We do have control panels available as well. We also have integral controllers. There's another option that's not on here, but that's more like if you have like 0.5 horsepower, 1 horsepower. A lot of times panels become not as competitive in that space, so we do have like an integral controller that can kind of fill the gap between these. I just want you guys to be aware we have that. Obviously, if you have a project or an application with that, you know, Gardner can help you guys out with that as well. Last thing's gonna be brackets. So very common question, misconception is, do I need the brackets? And the answer is no. Typically the units, they just mount directly on the wall above the door. Very straightforward to install. So all you guys gotta do for the majority of our commercial units is they come with a back plate. You just gotta bolt the back plate right above the door if you can. And then the unit pretty much just clips onto the back plate. Our larger units are typically hang mounted by like threaded rods or something like that. But if you had to mount them on the wall, you can do that as well. Or like I said, if there's an obstruction or something like that where it can't be flush on the wall above the door, that's where the brackets come in. So it's only if you gotta pull it off the wall. But we got a couple different options there. You can fabricate it yourself if you wanted. Ours is probably a cheaper option. And they're a little bit obviously more tailored to the air curtains, but we've got something like this, so 3.5 to 10 inches of clearance if you don't need that much space. And we can go all the way up to 2 feet of clearance if we had to for like a drum for a roll-up door or something like that, if you needed to pull it off the wall a little bit more. Or if you had like a curve or something like that, you had to get across. And then the last one, transom mount. So that's just really for retail applications if you had a transom. That's for our low pro, and our standard units are compatible with these if you wanted to install it in a transom. So that's the general overview. A couple of tools, I'm just gonna highlight the main ones here again, probably that'll hopefully resonate more with you guys. The first one's the videos. So we actually just started, it's called the Mars University. It's a new video series, I'll call it. We host them on our YouTube channel. And they're really for the technicians to kind of help train them in a more step-by-step, more broken down way. So You know, I think we've got maybe a dozen videos on the YouTube channel now. I'd say all of them are 5 minutes or less. And they're really good ways to really just get comfortable with troubleshooting the units, servicing the units. So, you know, some of them are how to swap out our motor fan assemblies, how to reset thermal overloads, just the various things. We started with the most common issues that happen with the air curtains. But like I said, if you guys have a project, you're gonna be servicing one, you can always call in, right? And our engineering team's really good with helping with tech calls and things like that. But this is a good way to self-learn too, and you can make you guys more efficient, and then obviously, you know, get you guys more comfortable with our product. So I highly recommend checking out those videos. We're expanding that, you know, weekly as we're coming up with more of those, but a really piecemealed way to get more comfortable with servicing the product. The other thing we do is customer webinars, and Mark can get you more information on that. We do those once every 4 to 6 weeks on various topics as well, kind of sort of similar to what I did today, but broken down. Those are, I think, 20 minutes tops. So I think the last one we did was on warehouse opportunities. The one before that we did schools. I think the next one's like in first week of June. I'm going to be talking about, I host those, so I'm going to be talking about accessories, common accessories, so kind of like what we just covered, a little bit more applied. And yeah, like I said, another good way for you guys to ask questions and just get more comfortable with our product. So that's, I can kind of walk you through, let's see, how much time do I got here? I can show you guys some of the website if you guys got a couple minutes.
I got a question.
Yeah, questions while I'm
So,
pulling
and
that
that
up.
is for like tech and service.
Yep.
So, I know your equipment never fails. but
Never fails.
In case it did.
Yep.
How, tech friendly is it to say if you need to replace, I don't know, motor? I mean, you gotta dismantle the whole frickin' thing to get to it, or is it just pop a cover and does wheel pop off?
Yep, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously the larger units, you might have to get in a little more, but like the ones I've been showing you, the ones in the background there, it's really just taking off the intake screen,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a dual shaft motor, so you just gotta take off the wheels, and then that's pretty much then
And then
reattach.
that's it? And-
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty straightforward then.
Yeah, and that's a good question. And like I said, that's a good question, and that's I think that's one of our videos we have as well. So we break that down in a clipped up, 2-minute video or whatever, how to swap the motor. So that shows it well too on the YouTube channel.
Does it come down from the bottom or from the front there?
Yeah, from the front. So this is I don't know, a good shot, but yeah, the front is an intake screen, so that's screwed on. You just take out the screws and then that just pops off. And then all the guts are right there, so it's access from front. The only one that's not is the Phantom unit, because that's recessed. So that one you can access from the bottom. It's just like a pull down panel essentially.
Curtis, on the airflow and the open door,
Mm-hmm.
say between a cold room where there's a walk-in freezer, walk-in coolers, right?
Yep.
And a trash room or a loading dock. How is that air aimed?
Like the direction of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so typically the best coverage is straight down. The only way you would have to modify that is if you're pulling it off the wall, like with a bracket, or if it's hang mounted. If it's not flush over the door, you just want to angle it. Really, the idea is, so the bottom of the airstream, I guess you guys probably can't see that, but the bottom of the
You
airstream
can
is
draw
right
on
at
the
the,
board, yeah.
yeah. So if, how would let's do this. Okay, so this is the unit. So if we're looking at the door on the side here, this is the door, and here's the floor. And then here's like the unit. Not an artist, it's not what I get paid to do. Luckily, just I get paid to do the talking, but, so yeah, so this is typical application, right? Here's the door, you want it right above the door, and it's blowing straight down. The only way you would want to change that is if you've got it pulled off the wall here. I should probably draw that a little bigger so you guys can see it. So let's say if there's like a bracket, right? This is the bracket, and then like, this is the unit. Oof, gotta work on that. So this is the discharge. You just imagine that's like a little discharge slot right there coming out from the bottom. You want to do the best you can to angle the discharge vanes so the air is flowing as close as it can right to pretty much where the middle of the
Threshold.
frame
Yeah,
opening
it shows
is.
us
Yeah.
the ribbon, so.
How does that protect the sides of that open area?
Got it. Good question. Yeah, so the problem, so that's the best way for coverage. You're obviously still gonna have some unserviced areas on the side here. So there's really two things you can do. The first is some people, this is sufficient. This will still work. If you wanted as much coverage, maximum benefit of the air curtain, you would need like some sort of side baffle, which we do sell, kind of like the bracket. We do sell side baffles as well. You can use with those. They can also be fabricated in the field as well. But you would need some sort of
So
coverage.
basically, you're taking that air curtain and boxing it on each side of that.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
To kind of cover those gaps. Yeah.
Put a beam in there.
Is there another? Oh.
Okay, so website. Let's see. I'll show you. So a couple of the main things, I guess. Let's do this. First, I'm gonna show probably the best tool, I think across the board that'll hopefully help you guys is the Build Your Air Curtain tool. So there's a couple benefits here. Number one, if you're selecting an air curtain, that'll take you through it. But I'll kind of show you the other side of this as well. It's kind of a continuous flow. We try to make it like a simple step-by-step process between the air curtain and getting the information that you guys need. So our air curtain selector tool, very straightforward. It's two questions. It's mounting height and application. So I'm gonna do an example here. Let's just say you got a 10-foot door opening. And again, this is mounting height. So typically by habit, I say door opening height, but I should probably be more specific. It's mounting height. So if you couldn't install it right above the door, let's say there was something there, you had to put it 12 feet and then it's a 10-foot door, you would have to select it for 12 feet. So it's technically the mounting height, but ideally that would be the door height. And then application. So let's say this one's gonna be temperature control. And then that's it. So now we've got our selections here. Looks like it came out with 3 units. Just a little finicky there, but 3 units. So standard, Quiet Pro, and Phantom. Now, obviously, I don't expect you guys to be experts. It might have a couple here, and you might be like, oh, what's really the difference? I'm not sure. So you can click through them to get that info. They're also kind of, the differentiators are broken down here. But like I said, I work with them every day, so it's second nature. But Phantom 10 is obviously going to be the recessed unit. Quiet Pro is going to be for more quiet applications, and then our standard, I guess as the name says, that's more of the standard bread and butter air curtain we offer. So depending on what you need is where you would click into. Just for the demonstration's sake, I'll just click into standard so you guys can kind of see what that looks like. All the pages are pretty much the same though. Here, what is that? There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go to View Details, and this is gonna take you to what's called our product page. So the product page, basically, it should have 90% of the information you need. Obviously, if you can reach out to Gardner, you reach out to Mark, and he can get you what you need. This is, if you need quick information, you're sitting at your customer's desk, and they want some quick information, you can kind of take them here and walk them through the basics here. But model numbers, it's really just dependent on those factors that you see there. So the width, let's just say this is we go up to 12 feet, but I'm just going to leave it as 36. That's a standard man door application, 3 feet wide. So we're going to do 36-inch door. Number of motors that auto-populates are up to 48 inches is one motor. So that should, like I said, auto-populate. If you had a heat option, the heat option would be here. I'm going to leave it unheated again just for the demonstration, but if you had, electric or something like that, you could select that here. Voltage. So the only limitation is really the low pro. That one we only do single phase. Standard, obviously, we have single phase and 3-phase options. We can do 575 as well. We don't publish it because that's pretty uncommon, I think, now, especially in the States. But if you guys happen to run across a 575 project, we can do that. And then the colors. So Obsidian Black, that's the image that you see there. That's our standard color. Now we can do a pearl white and we can do a titanium silver without really effect on the lead time, because those two colors we use for our other models.
So we do frequent runs on those, but if you had a customer that wanted some, I don't know, crazy green or something like that, we can do it. We can take it to our powder coater. We would just need to know like the RAL number, and we could just run that. And that would probably add lead time too, but. And then that's it. So that gives you the model number, that STD 236-1UAOB. On the left here, like I said, quick snapshot of kind of the main info you would probably want to send to your customer. And then on the right is the information, and those are the things that go into a little bit more detail. But we've got, I'll click on the submittal pages here. So we have a submittal packet you can generate. I'll just take you through some of the components of that. So this is the cut sheets. It's pretty straightforward. What's nice with our units is all of the submittals are consistent. It's broken down by series. The only difference is the length. So you see here like the standard 236 1UA, that's what we picked. All of them going up to the 144. It's all listed out. You just kind of have to read the chart. So you find your model and then you read across, and that'll get you your the information that you need. And like I said, that's more of the physical data. Page 2 is going to be more of your electrical data. So if you need, amp draws, you just again same thing. Read your model number, and then whatever column the voltage and the phase is, and that'll kind of spit out what amperage you need. And then really, like I said, we try to make it consistent, easy flow to get everything you need. If you needed the cut sheets on the door switches, if you needed the panel information, brackets, all of those are hyperlinked as well. So if you wanted to send, again, your customer, if they want information on that 99014 that you see there, you can just click into the door limit switches, and then that'll take you directly to the door limit switch submittal. So like I said, everything should be pretty easy to find. These pages you can also find on the product pages as well. So if you wanted to kind of dig into here, like I said, disconnect switch submittals are here. The vertical mounting kit, if you needed that. Filter submittals. And then we do at the bottom here, see if this is jumping up on me. There we go. On the bottom, where am I? Oh, IOMs, I'll show you guys, though. You guys probably want to see that too. So the IOMs are there. BIM 3D drawings are there if you guys had to access those. CSI specs, if you guys needed the specs, those are there. But
DBA,
which one? I'm sorry?
second one from the bottom, DBA, what's that?
DBA. Oh, decibels, sound ratings.
Oh, sound.
Yeah, sound ratings. And those are in the, I kind of skipped over that, but those are in the submittals as well. That's a good question because I was talking about sound. But it's on the very bottom. All the sound ratings are on the very bottom. So it depends on the motor, right? So the small ones, smaller sound rating, and then as they go up, the ratings go up as well. But that's what all that is. What was I gonna? Oh, the IOM. IOMs are pretty comprehensive. So, like I said, they kind of break out. I already kind of walked you guys through how to install them. It's pretty straightforward. I guess the other thing to note is for the larger units. I think this is a helpful way to do it, but we ship those with the housing and the motor fan assembly separate, just because that gets really heavy, obviously, to install. You might need two, if you got a 12-foot unit with the motor fan assemblies in it, you're gonna need at least 2 guys putting that up. This way, they're a little bit lighter individual pieces, and the motor fan assemblies are super easy to just, you basically screw in the motor fan assembly into the housing. So that way they can mount the housing and then they put the motor fan in. It's a little safer that way too. And like I said, you usually can do it with less manpower. We also have, there's a startup, I think there was, it keeps jumping on me. There's a startup guide in here. I kind of skipped over that, but that just kind of helps you. Again, basically, I already talked about a lot of this, making sure the discharge is pointing at the opening and things like that. You're getting correct airflow, no negative pressure. You can even do that with just like a piece of tissue paper. If you just hold it along the door there, you can, you just see the fluctuations, and you just want to make sure it's not pulling it out of your hand, essentially. There's some troubleshooting here. We do have a startup checklist as well. I don't believe it's in the IOM, but you guys can reach out to Gardner for that. We have that internally. But that kind of same thing, just takes you through a typical checklist to make sure everything's up and running properly. And then this is the last thing. So we have a parts list too.
This is kind of something new we added, but this is just, again, another way we can hopefully help you guys be more comfortable troubleshooting the product and kind of communicate to us as well. A lot of times when we get requests for like parts or, hey, this isn't working, it gets lost in translation. We end up asking, hey, can you send a picture? Well, shit, I was at the job site 2 days ago. Now I got to go back or ask them for a picture. So a lot of delays can happen that way. So we added these in to hopefully help you guys kind of recognize what parts you need a little bit easier as well. And then the warranty information's on the back page. Our warranty for unheated units, the standard low pros, again, the typical ones are 5 years. So I think that's the industry leader in warranty. I would say it probably has the units last a lot longer than that. Almost too long. We've got units out there that are 20 years old, which I think actually helps reinforce the brand a little bit in terms of the quality of the product. But again, industry leader in the warranty, 18 months for heated units, and I believe it's a year for the controller components as well. Let's see, what else? I think that's the main. Gosh, this thing keeps coming up on me.
You wanna show us the YouTube channel?
I can. You mind if I go to your
Already had just
YouTube here? Okay,
Type in YouTube.
let's do it. Okay. So like I said, we got it. I'll just pick one of the shorter ones down here. Oh, here we go. So this is how to replace the motor fan assembly. That's Naga, our head engineer here, running this one. But you guys need an idea of kind of what we're doing. Is there sound?
Yeah, we can.
Now
Oh, you hear?
use the white thing to turn the volume up. I'm sorry, the black thing.
Oh.
Left side.
Must be untied at the conduit box. Remove the 2 hex nuts on each side. Once the nuts are removed, the MFA can be removed from the air curtain housing holding the MFA on each end. It will show how to replace the motor fan assembly in an unheated Mars air curtain. First, remove the front intake screen, which is held by 4 screws on each end. Next, disconnect the motor power. Units with single-phase power connect by a plastic plug, as shown, while units with 3-phase power must be untied at the conduit box. Remove the 2 hex nuts on each side. Once the nuts are removed, the MFA can be removed from the air curtain housing holding the MFA on each end. When lifting the new MFA, be careful to grab only the edges of the wheel housing. Reaching too far into the housing can hit the wheel itself and cause it to bend. Align the new MFA mounting slots over the mounting bolts in the cabinet. Reattach the nuts to the mounting bolts and tighten. Insert the motor plug and ensure that it is secured. Finally, reattach the intake screen and tighten the screws, and the job is done.
The intake screen easy. That's someone had a question on that. Easy to take on and off. Yeah. So and like I said,
Do you have any of the animation that you were trying to show before?
do you have which one? I was just ripping off.
The smoke or the animation?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's see if I think I do. Hang on. Let me go back to the.
He was using a ratchet, I mean, everyone else would be zipped it, so that even makes it quicker. See? NASCAR of,
Video loops.
Metric
Let's see.
10.
The scroll here is being. Oh, here we go. This is the smoke test.
You said something about securing the connection? I didn't get that. You unsecured it, but.
So again, this is a good. I think this is a good visual representation. You can actually kind of see the curtain effects going on here. So it's knocking down the smoke, but it's actually bringing it back out as well. I think that's the key driver. Making sure the airflow is dialed into where you're getting at. Too much airflow, you can create turbulence. You can actually make the problem worse. But that's the kind of the general. That was the video I was going to show. It's just a quick image of kind of what we're doing with the air curtains on a basic level there. So
Maybe one of those outside my tent when I go camping.
yeah,
Get all mosquitoes.
yeah. We don't. I was thinking maybe we could do like a battery powered
Do a
one,
vertical mount.
and you can
Get
you
your
can take
Milwaukee
yeah.
battery.
Get with
Oh,
Mil-
vertical
yeah.
mount.
Get with Milwaukee, get some batteries going.
Yeah.
Got that winner.
I don't know if I have an image of the vertical mount one, but
Install one in my head. Hang off my face.
this is actually kind of cool. I can show you guys this. This is something we've been doing a lot more too. So like restaurants, you guys might notice like a lot of restaurants have they like to have an open seating kind of like setup, meaning like they have these like accordion style doors, and during like summer months they'll just pop those open, and they like to have that open seating atmosphere. Obviously, the problem with that is pretty much the two main things: temperature and the air curtain, or temperature and flying insect control. So we've actually had a couple projects. We've had some where the restaurants, they'll put them around the perimeter. So they'll have like 15, 20 units kind of all around. And then when they have those doors open, they just run the air curtains. And it's, like I said, 70 to 80% effective. Closed door is probably your best bet. But if they want that kind of seating, it helps solve the problem by about 70-80%. So a lot of restaurants are doing more of that as that becomes more popular. But I thought that was a cool image to kind of show that too. It's another way we're using them.
What's the largest thermal barrier that you can get?
The largest like temperature difference? That's a great question. I don't know. I'll say this: we've done freezers with -10 in the 70-degree, ambient. I'm not even really sure what the max would be, but I will say this: those projects we've had success. So maybe it's a little bit beyond that, maybe it's a lot beyond that, but we do seem to get pretty good results with those.
Smucker's stores their strawberries at 40 below zero.
40 below zero.
40 below zero.
Why do they need to be that cold?
Long term.
Yeah,
They
I
get
guess
them
so.
right now, and then
Yeah.
they have to last the whole year.
Yeah. Now, do you know if they have air curtains, or?
What else is stored at 40 below?
I guess I was gonna say maybe we could test it out to see if it, if it could work in that. I honestly, I think it could, unless it was something super crazy, like 100 degrees in the -40.
Yeah.
I feel like we would be able to provide some sort of solution. But I haven't seen anything that extreme yet. That would be cool to test.
Well, that's in Orville, Ohio.
It's a what?
Orville, Ohio.
Orville. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know there's a lot of like manufacturing larger cold storage. I feel like out in Ohio. So that one I was talking about earlier, I don't unfortunately have an image on the box link, but it was that Campbell's project, and I think that was somewhere in Ohio. But they did, like I said, they did like a vertical. I wish I had an image of that. They literally, the door was like 16 feet tall and it was super narrow, so it didn't make sense to put the unit above it because they just didn't really have the space. So we just did a longer unit with less horsepower essentially, and installed the vertical on the door and got really good results with that too. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Any other things you guys would like to?
Seeing you had it, it was labeled that it works with steam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that just straight heat, or is that actually for humidifying?
Like steam heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would just be for heat. It's just like steam coils. So we're not actually blowing anything out of the unit. It would just be for heat.
Right.
Yeah. Another common question we get is
CST
is cooling. We can't really do we don't really do cooling just because the surface area is too small. It would be kind of a cool concept, but yeah, or it would just be raining on people. So cooling doesn't really work too well with the air curtains either. Any other questions? And then I think I passed around it's just our 8-page, I call it the 8-page leave behind sheet. That kind of breaks down the applications I was showing you guys earlier. Kind of a concise brochure to pretty much reinforce the application I was showing you guys, taking you through the customer entry type doors all the way up to the industrial, and then I think the back page has the UVC applications on it. So good tool to get for you guys to reference, keep it to your desk if you want to show a customer that. And then I got my card as well somewhere if you want to hand those out. But,
Pesky guy.
Is Mars Electric the parent company of the
Very common question. No, we're not related to Mars Electric, but we always get requests for their motors. Always get requests, but no, different companies. Different companies. Yep.
Phil, it's named that way because of Roswell, it was just across the border.
I was gonna say we're also not related to Mars bars either. We don't make candy. Unfortunately, that would be a cool addition. But.
You said you can get them painted in different colors, is there an upcharge for the paint?
Yeah, so for the pearl white or the titanium silver, I think it's a small upcharge just because we have to put it on the other run. But for a RAL one, there would be probably something a little bit more on that, just because that would be a custom run.
You do videos with like heat installed on these things?
You mean like those service videos?
Yeah, 'cause I see lots of pictures with no heat
Yeah.
installed on these things. So
Yeah. So are they up now? I don't know if we have any electric heat videos, but that's in the pipeline because those are more involved. The electric heating units, and I didn't mention that. I'm glad you brought it up. The electric heating units come with controllers just for the electric heat component, so you don't need that's the nice thing is the magnetic switches. You don't need to buy a separate controller for that. But I guess why I bring that up is there's obviously more components in the electric, so that video series will probably be a little longer. But we will do those. That's in the works.
You're talking about post office.
I'm just talking about heat. Don't be bringing stuff up when I want to talk about it.
We don't talk about heat till like November.
I needed heat today, bud. Okay, it was
Really?
cold out today.
Yeah, today, yeah. Compared to yesterday, can we just take some of yesterday's heat or whatever and bring it into and just even it out, make it all 70 degrees, that'd be nice.
Rather it was Monday.
Unfortunately, that place is called Florida.
Yeah, that's true, a little far still from there, but yeah, and like I said, Mark's our gardener guy, he's really good with Mars, he's been to our factory for training, so he'd be your point of contact to get started, and then we're obviously a tool we can help out too, as needed, so.
So you guys have like active tech support and everything as well?
Yeah, so usually just over the phone.
Okay.
But yeah, if you've got like an installer or something with a question, just call in, and we do that a lot. We can talk to you guys or whoever's installing it over the phone. We've done FaceTime calls too, if you want to show us. So we're pretty good at adapting to The only thing to kind of note is we are, like I said, in California, so if you're doing a 6 a.m. service call, we might not be answering the phone, but if you have some in the afternoon, our team will be available. So. We could probably set something up too, though, if you absolutely had to do something. Maybe not that early, but.
Just wake Naga up.
Who?
Wake Naga up.
Yeah, he's done some 7 a.m. So I guess that'd be like 10 a.m. you guys, 9:30, 10 maybe, but yeah, they're pretty good about helping you guys out with those.
Is electric heat more complex? Is it super complex to work on, or is it pretty straightforward?
I think it's. So I'm not a technician, so maybe that you guys probably know the answer to that better. I'll say this: there's obviously more components to it. The components that are there are pretty straightforward, but compared to an unheated unit, there's going to be definitely more involved there. At least just more from the wiring side. Now we wire that all from the factory, but it would just be more from the troubleshooting if you wanted to test, continuity and things like that.
Can't have the heat if the fan's off. You
Yes.
burn it up.
You don't want that to happen. Correct. If that happens, yeah, it's gonna be shut that off immediately. Yeah, those coils can heat up pretty quick.
Should.
Guys,
Great question, ask him.
Curtis, thank you. Appreciate
What's
it.
the timeline on the heat energized right away when the fan kicks on?
Yeah, pretty quick. I mean, a couple seconds. It's usually pretty quick. They're induction coils, so it's just getting the.
Should be instantaneous.
Yeah.
Well, it's still gonna take a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah,
If
it's
it's a
not
walk-in
instant, but
door
pretty quick.
and you're in and out, you may not even notice that heat. But if it's like a delivery door where it just runs and runs, and
You're
you're gonna
Yeah.
be kicking, you're gonna be cooking. So.
Yep.
Well, that's
Good
what,
question.
what Benny was talking about, like Sam's Club, Costco's, stuff like that.
It's open all the time.
Well, those are radiant heat, probably.
What's
You
that?
know.
Well, yeah,
Tube
some of
each.
them are, yeah, some of them are tube, some of them are air curtain, depending on where you're at in the building.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys'
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks everyone for
Thanks, Curtis.
staying for my field. Appreciate it.